I decided to split the video because it was 48 minutes. Nobody's going to watch a 48-minute video, in my humble opinion. But the tale that the telemetry told on this flight is just too important not to share. So let's pick up sort of where we left off. But now we're going to talk about what the airspeed sensor did, because I didn't even know if it calibrated anything at the field. Okay, so also on the airspeed, I need to run in and see if I did get any calibration. So in order to do that, we have to disconnect. And we'll go for some data flash logs. View a log. I've already saved some of these away to my hard drive. Okay. So we'll go immediately for airspeed. Click. Clicky. Okay, just for kicks and grins. Oh, look at airspeed. Oh, it slowed down the whole time. Again, I could hear the RPM of the motor ramping down the whole flight. Now, I did play with the throttle right after launch. I did on the last flight on the Nano Talon, mini Talon. This is the Nano Talon this time. And I ended up setting the throttle on the Nano Talon to just a quarter of an inch less than half throttle, just to slow it down a little. But I don't know what the stall speed is, et cetera, or characteristics of the platform yet, so I can't slow it down much. But I don't see messages. Yep. We got, and again, I can't get these. Messages out of the way, but it looks to me like there were 2, 3, 4. Whoa. Here's the first airspeed reset, and that's based on that I can see the word reset and then a value. So it was 1.8, then 1.6, then 1.5, then 1.4. Yeah, I did notice that this, and that also can give you one of the reasons where this graph is descending, because as this ratio is lowered, then the airspeed is lowered. Let's go ahead and grab from the GPS ground speed. There we go. Yeah, see this? This is what I was looking out for on the Nano Talon. I mean, the mini Talon, that last flight, for that airspeed and the ground speed to be closer together. And you can see right here, right after the takeoff, the airspeed was higher than the ground speed. And then we had a airspeed recalc right here. Dropped it from, I happen to know it was 1.9, and I'll show you that in just a second. It was 1.9 something out of the box. It dropped it to 1.8. And we've decided that's right here above the middle, so that would be about right here. So it dropped it to 1.8. And then we have another one here where it dropped it to 1.6. That's quite a bit. 0.1 drop, then 0.2 drop. 1.5, a 0.1-ish, 1.4, 0.1-ish. Then the flight was over. And by the fact that this reset took place right here, probably when the platform was in its landing mode, this was out of return to launch. We can find that out by clicking this box right here. Here's where fly-by-wire A was set right here. So if we knock that back off again for the modes, yep, right about exactly. It did a airspeed ratio auto calc reset right at the same time I was getting ready to land it, where I only did a 5-minute flight today. For the mini Talon, I did 8-minute flight, 9-minute flight, and only 2 recalculations. There were 4 in this that I can see. And I think seeing this was reset, it will not do another calculation unless it will not reset the number unless the recalculated airspeed every 2 minutes is greater than 5% difference from the last airspeed. But I can see right here, this airspeed and this ground speed is getting pretty darn close. And some of this going up and down more than this might just be calibration or how fast the electronics can change in the GPS versus how fast they can change in the airspeed sensor. So anyway, I do think it wouldn't hurt to do more airspeed calibrations. But they don't have to be done the next flight because we're sort of by what I can see right here from, okay, let's call it from this airspeed reset right here on. It's pretty darn good in my humble opinion. Let's turn on point values. Oh, look, here's a ground speed of, oops, rats, that's right, it's in meters per second. Oh, well, 20.908 meters per second. This is 17. I don't know how much difference that is in miles per hour. I'd have to calculate that. So I didn't think any airspeed ratios had been recalculated, but I think it was calculating them. It did calculate 4 and perhaps would have gone on for some more. And the wind speed wasn't that bad today. Let's take these messages off this graph. We'll take the ground speed off the graph. Let's go look for wind speed. Where did I find that? On the, while I'm here, I want to look at the throttle out. Oh, pretty good. Much different than the mini Talon. It's fairly constant, and that the flight controller is giving it. We can look at what I gave it from the radio. Like I say, took off, went into return to launch right here. So it dropped it. And you can see where I dropped it even further, not long after that at all. I dropped it down less than 50% throttle and just let it sit there for the rest of it, although I still think it was flying a little fast. I did play with the throttle on the mini Talon that I didn't report. Where is that? Oh well. I did find the wind speed in here last night. But I don't remember where it was. There's just so much stuff in here. Intune. Darn it. Found it last night. This is the vibrations. Vibration in X. Not too bad. And Y. Yow. That's the roll, I think, and it was doing some flapping around out there. And Z, not too bad at all. Oh well, I'll try to find wind speed again. I can find it in a different way. So that tells the tale. It did calibrate. It could still use some calibration, but it's close enough right now to go ahead and fly the auto tune on the next mission. Now then, if we go into telemetry logs, go back to gauges, nope, quick, and velocity in miles per hour down here. Okay, this will let us look at that. Just for kicks and grins here. Whoops, yeah, I'm disconnected. We'll go ahead and not supposed to be connected for that. Disconnect, load a log, 1 o'clock-ish, telemetry log. Let's forward it up to we're in flight. There we go, right there. We'll let it run at 1 times. Now we'll go back out and look. Oops. There we go. Send fly-by-wire A. Should arm at any second here. There we go. Throttle up. See, here's the wind velocity now. There wasn't much today. More than when I flew the mini Talon. I've gone back and looked at the mini Talon, and it was 3 to 5 miles an hour that day, which is what it is kind of here. And you can see right now, here's the ground speed at 45 and the airspeed at 48. You remember when it first started out, the airspeed was higher than the ground speed. Still is. Now we'll see what happens after a couple of those calculations, recalcs. I didn't time them out. They come every 2 minutes. Sitting here for 2 minutes waiting on one might not be real bright. But you can see our calculated wind speed from the airspeed sensor is 5.3 miles per hour. So it's a good day to go flying. But again, you can see our GPS speed 36, airspeed 44. I don't believe that for love nor money. I think they should be within this much of each other, depending on if you're downwind or upwind. We'll just call it 5 miles an hour. One of them should be 5 miles an hour above the other, depending on if you're going against the wind or with the wind. So let's go back down to the telemetry logs. And let's push this thing up a little more to here. Wind speed's still the same. And looky there. Now our airspeed is less than the ground speed. Probably by this amount. Let's pause it. Oops, it's landed. Let's go back to the telemetry logs. Back them up just a hair to here. And then go back out here. And we'll just pause it right there and take a snapshot. Rats, I think that's into the wind. Okay, that might work. 5.7 miles an hour added to 35 is 48.481. Not as large as this, but that would be why the airspeed's a little more than the ground speed because of this 5 miles an hour of wind. It's not exactly right. So again, I think the airspeed could be calibrated more. Let's see what happens when it comes around the corner of this circle, which I happen to know from being there today would be the plane is now flying downwind. Pause. And you can see that reflected here. The airspeed is less than the ground speed because the wind is carrying it along faster in the GPS data. Now, it's not this much difference, so there's still some calculating and recalculating needing to be done, but it's very, very close. I think it's close enough where I can fly the auto-tune flights and come back to airspeed auto calculation later. Actually, you can leave that turned on. It says now, and if it's not different by more than 5%, it won't do anything with it. But I can see now it is doing what I expect it to do, and it's doing it better than the mini Talon. I may have a leak in the tubes in the mini Talon. Okay, now we're coming back against what wind there was, 5.43 miles an hour. So the ground speed is now less than the air speed. Yep, if the wind's blowing in your face, the airspeed coming across the wings is still this value, but the ground speed is, this is about 6 miles an hour. That's right at that difference and in the direction I know it should be. So cool. I didn't know what was going on with the battery fail-safe real quick after the launch, or actually during the launch. I do now. And I do see that my airspeed calculation, the reason for the flight, worked well enough in 5 minutes. Yeah, I think today was a 5-minute flight. I thought it might just do 2 because the mini Talon only did 2. Plus, mini Talon, I do need to show that at some point. The mini Talon's up to 3 something, which I think that's out of range or what's expected. But when I show the mini Talon, if I do, I will speak to that. But okay, there's what the telemetry logs revealed from suspicions I had today during the flight and some little problems. Now, there are some other little problems with all of this, and those problems were with my ground station. I mean, this was just crazy. I'm going to make this a little bigger so these work a little better. And I want to set those up again. I reinstalled Mission Planner last night and it messed this all up. So this one should be battery voltage. This one can be ground speed. This one will be airspeed. There we go. This one will be altitude. We'll leave, this will be distance to home. I'm not sure why I'm using that yet, but we'll continue to use it. This will be distance to waypoint. I set all this up. I haven't seen distance to waypoint. Oops, I got 2 distance to homes in there, don't I? Well, that wouldn't be bad to be distance traveled. Oh, this is in meters again. This is in meters per second. This one I want to be sat count for the satellites. Something in there. And wind velocity is not bad for this one. Wind velocity, got a wind direction there too. And this is, I have been using for my link status, but I've found out this value right up here on the HUD is link status. I'm going to set it to link status anyway. Link quality of ground control station. Okay, those are like I want them to be. Might pull this a little wider. So ground speed will. Now then, over here. I want the units to be in feet. I want the altitude in feet. I want the speed in miles per hour. These might have to be changed for the Dragon Link. And this one was changed too. This is where the log files are saved. And it's right now saving them in OneDrive. I don't even like Microsoft OneDrive. That kind of torqued my jaw when I found it. To be back in that place today because I made a mission planners /logs subdirectory exclusively for my log files. Okay. That might straighten up that problem. Now my ground speed is in miles per hour, airspeed miles per hour, altitude in feet, distance to home. I can actually go back now and look at those telemetry logs, and these values will be in non-metric, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's kind of the things I saw wrong at the field. Some strangeness in the battery, and I thought it was that sag compensated deal, which I did find in the parameters. The airspeed calcs, I didn't think they got done. I didn't see any messages come up on the HUD, but I wasn't watching the HUD. Or even when I was creating the flight video, I didn't see any in the HUD, and hadn't seen any in the HUD when we were looking at it a while ago. But there were at least 4 and one right at flight termination, so it's good enough right now to go ahead and do the auto-tune flight, and then we can do some recreational flying, and then do the airspeed sensor calibration in our leisure. These problems right here with the ground control station that I upgraded to 1376. Let's make sure there's not a new one out. By the way, I didn't say this. I also had to upgrade to our new plane 4.1.6. Look at that here as we finish up. But I do want to enable speech in the future mode. I do want to hear what's going on every 30 seconds. I do want to hear arm and disarm. Those shouldn't bother you too much. So that gets this ground station, and my saved electric directory for logs is back where it needs to be. This telemetry rates needs to be looked at for Dragon Link, but they actually change those telemetry rates over in the full perimeter list instead of in here. You can do it either place. So, lastly, let's look back at the mission planner perimeters. So I promised I would look at first. Well, I'm just going to do a file compare here. And before the flight, before I upgraded it to version 4.1.6 of RDoPlane, that's when I turned off Airspeed use because it wasn't calibrated yet. There were some funky things with the mini Talon, and I think that's what caused them using it at the same time trying to calibrate it. And then turned on auto calc. So we don't see. Here it is. So the value of the airspeed ratio before I went flying was 1.9936. And we saw in the telemetry logs that by the end of the flight, this is the post-flight save. Oops. It was saved at that value. This is where I upgraded it to 4.1.6 before the flight. And you can see here the ratio. Again, it's still that 1.9936. Post-flight, it was all the way down to 1.4. And getting closer and closer to what I think it should be the whole time. So, boy, didn't understand a lot of that while it was going on. Guess I can go back now through a telemetry log for kicks and grins on my own and see what the actual ground speed and airspeed was and altitude was. Where it's not being given to me in meters per second and meters above ground. So as you can see, you can go out and fly a platform, and if you're getting good telemetry data, there's a whole lot of things you can find the answer to after the fact. Ever since the United States has been launching missiles from Werner von Braun in Germany during World War II, I guess, on, telemetry logs have been integral to electronics, flight controllers. About telemetry logs. Telemetry logs, if the platform flies off and crashes someplace and I never find it, I can still tell what went on from the logs that are sent to the ground during the flight, second by second. Can't get the data flash logs out of the platform if it flies away. Those both can have different values. So, don't know how more to tell you. Telemetry. It is supremely important in RDoPilot. I'm even going to show you a way soon, hopefully, where telemetry is going to tell me exactly my stall speed, because as I pull back on it during that upcoming test, on the telemetry graph, you're going to see that stabilization of fly-by-wire A goes extremely crazy as the airspeed comes back and it passes the stall point. Those flight control surfaces are going to be just as steady as a rock. We all know how steady they're actually not. But basically steady as a rock, flying straight and level, and then as the stall speed breaks, there's going to be some fluttering in the roll of the platform that's going to tell me exactly where the stall speed is. And then we can start doing auto landings and such. Okay. Thanks, guys.